All right, so it seems like we finally have some of these details in terms of what is going to be included in the partisan version of this dual track process that we have been talking about with the infrastructure negotiations that are continuing to go. And listen, there is a big question mark up in the air as of right now as to how they're going to go about passing the bipartisan bill that they're trying to do, and then how they are going to do that in tandem with this partisan one. If they try to separate this, and I covered this in my video yesterday, if they try to separate this process, this dual track process, and they try to pass the bipartisan one and then leave the partisan one up for negotiation and debate, then it's going to be watered down, and it's not going to be full of the things that I'm about to read you in some of these details that we're getting right now. So first off, I just wanted to go through some of the main highlights here according to Bernie Sanders, of course, Chairman Bernie Sanders, the chairman of the budget committee. So he basically has a lot of power in this entire process, and here's what he says is going to hopefully be included in this bill, the $3.5 trillion partisan one. So he says that the budget resolution that they have put forward for this bill includes the child tax benefit, so extending that child tax credit, which is a fantastic thing. It's a great policy. It's basically UBI for people who have kids. Awesome if that gets extended. Hopefully it should be made permanent, because then it would be significantly harder for Republicans or even corporate Democrats to try to get rid of it down the line. Universal pre-K, again, fantastic. No complaints about that. Paid family and medical leave. We are currently one of the only countries in the entire developed world that doesn't already have paid family and medical leave. So this is just catching us up to the rest of the world, but still great. Tuition-free community college. Again, I would rather it be more comprehensive than this, but that's a great first step in the right direction towards providing education that is accessible to everybody, free at the point of service, basically funded through taxes, etc. Funded through taxes, even though our taxes don't directly pay for things like that. But still, another great policy there. Lower prescription drug costs, and I looked into some more of the specifics here, and it seems like Bernie is going to try to get the federal government, as they do in countries all over the world, like in Canada, to have the government directly negotiate drug prices with these drug companies, and do so through Medicare, so that would lower the prescription drug costs, because the drug companies would not be getting to just arbitrarily set whatever prices they want. The government would be able to step in and say, no, maybe you can price gouge us a little bit, but we're not going to let you do these extreme situations where, Americans are paying 10 times more for insulin than our neighbors up in Canada. We should be negotiating drug prices at the bare minimum. So again, fantastic if they actually follow through on this. They continue. Dental, hearing, vision included in the Medicare expansion. So all of those things obviously should be included in healthcare, right? Shouldn't even really be controversial. My eyes, my ears, and my mouth are all part of my health. So really, again, it shouldn't even be controversial that this would be included in a government healthcare insurance program. So as they're including that in Medicare, again, fantastic, catching us up to the rest of the world. Housing, money for housing, we'll have to wait and see what some of the specifics are on that. Home care, again, catching us up to the rest of the developed world. Major climate money, and this is kind of vague as of right now, but we'll have to see what this is put towards. I know that they're pushing electric vehicles. I know that they're trying to do the climate, the taxes on a lot of these emissions, and so hopefully this is actually going to be geared towards the right thing. They also have money for Civilian Climate Corps, which is a really good idea as well, that was implemented back in the days of FDR. So another great thing in terms of climate. So we'll have to see more of the specifics as they start to unroll on this, but if Bernie is saying it's major climate money, then I'm inclined to believe that it's at least somewhat substantial relative to what we have been doing in the past, which is really a low threshold, but it's better than nothing. And so immigration, obviously they're going to be tackling some immigration reform within this bill, which Republicans are absolutely fuming at and hate, but it's necessary. And honestly, if they can sneak any other reform in to this bill, then I 100% support it. I don't really give a fuck if Republicans are blowing their heads up and freaking out about it. So immigration reform, important to be included in there. Again, have to wait on some more of the specifics. Also, lower the Medicare age. Don't know what they're going to lower it to. I don't know if it's going to be something like 55 or 50, but Bernie seemed to be willing to back off to like the 55 demand, so maybe they'll be lowering that to 55, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And Obamacare expansion, whatever, it is what it is. Increasing physical supply, and too many climate clean energy plans to summarize here, he says. So again, the climate thing is going to be pretty comprehensive, and hopefully that will be the most comprehensive part of this plan, because we need to invest significantly more in climate than we have been previously, and we know that the bipartisan bill is basically doing nothing in regards to climate. So everything climate related is going to have to be included in this partisan version of the bill. And new revenue so this is where they're getting money to pay for the bill, even though, as I've said, said repeatedly throughout this entire process, infrastructure investments, climate investments, investments into the future of our people, via free college, etc. These are investments that pay for themselves over time. So the idea that we have to front the cash in order to pass this legislation is just nonsense, really. But here's how they are paying for what's in this bill. So beefed up IRS tax enforcement. Fantastic. Obviously, right now we have a completely gutted and defunded IRS, where basically we have a situation where if you are a working class American, you are more likely to be audited by the IRS than a billionaire. So that doesn't make any sense. It's a completely perverse and ridiculous system. We need to adequately fund the IRS so that they can crack down on a lot of these billionaires and these corporations that are dodging their taxes. Okay, so fantastic. Taxing the rich, so they're going to be raising taxes on everybody basically above 400,000 is the income threshold that they said. Taxing corporations, fees on polluters, again, fantastic, and Medicare negotiations. So we'll have to see again how some of these details play out, but at a surface level analysis here that we're getting from Bernie Sanders, it seems like there's going to be a lot of good stuff in here. Is it going to be as comprehensive as I would have liked? No, I would have supported the plan that was supported by the Sunrise Movement, which was $10 trillion over the next 10 years, which is what the American Society of Civil Engineers is telling us we need to invest in our infrastructure. So I would have supported something much more substantial to this. Bernie started the negotiations by coming out with that $6 trillion number, which was basically a way to make the $3.5 trillion seem like it's not as much, and it seemed like that might have worked. So we'll have to see if they actually stick to this $3.5 trillion, and exactly everything that he just outlined in this plan and what the details are going to be are yet to come. But if they stick to this, then this would be a pretty substantial bill. Okay, again, not nearly close to what I would have wanted over this same time frame. It's not going to be solving all of our infrastructure problems. It's not going to be enough to address climate change in and of itself, but this is a really good bill, and I'm not going to lie, this is a really substantial bill that I think is fair to say would be one of the best actual investments in our people directly since the days of FDR. So let's hope that they stick to this. Let's hope that progressives in the House and Congress are actually willing to stick to their guns to make sure that the bipartisan bill and the partisan bill pass at the same time, so there's no gap or window of time for corporate Democrats to try to water down this bill. That's going to be the biggest factor, is how this negotiation process is going to play out, because basically progressives need to stick their guns and say, we're not negotiating on this at all. Okay, you take it or you leave it, and then we're not doing anything with infrastructure on either of these bills. So that's what needs to happen, and hopefully they stick to their guns, and this would be a pretty substantial piece of legislation.